All right, welcome in, everyone, to a post-game edition of the Chase for Championship here. My name is Jeremie Poplin. That is Steve McGehee, as you can see, joining us from courtside in the Mike Breen seat. So, Steve, no bangs. Oh, I was going to say no bangs allowed. He might have that actually trademarked, so we might have to end up clipping that out before we get a little cease and desist from the folks at ESPN and Mike Breen. But, man, you know, what an incredible series. That kind of, in a good way, ended up working out for the Thunder and the type of performance that they had today. I don't want that, though, to take away from the brilliance that was this series, because this was a good one, even if we did have one blowout in Game 2 and another blowout here in Game 7, of course, in the Thunder's favor.
Well, this series lasted forever. At least it felt like it. 13 days. Tomorrow would be 14, but we're moving on to Minnesota. But I thought whoever was going to win the series was going to be very fortunate to win. I think it really helped that Game 7 was here and not in Denver, and I think the Nuggets feels the same way with that line of thinking. It did not start off great, though. They were down 21-10. Looked like Denver brought the punch first. They sure did. Then Caruso comes in the game, puts the defense on the Joker, and all of a sudden, as David Adelman said after the game, the interim coach for Denver, which I hope he gets the job, said the game went sideways in a hurry on Denver. Oklahoma City's defense was the reason why they got back in this game, and they got the lead, and they didn't give it up.
I think one of my keys, and virtually I think everyone else that pays attention to basketball, was going to see how J-Dub responded to the type of series that he's had so far. And today, a little slice of brilliance for the second leading scorer for the Thunder. And just how good was he, Steve? And they needed it. I mean, quite frankly, they needed that type of performance to win today.
Well, I felt bad for him because he took a lot of criticism probably on social media. And I think Dub, has an eye on that stuff. Maybe he needs to not look at it as much, but that's, everyone has their own opinion on that. But probably some unfair criticism because I think it was 3 out of 16 in Game 6. You knew he was going to shoot better. He wasn't going to get any worse. He played. Oklahoma City has 2 All-Stars, and their 2 All-Stars played like it today in a must-win situation in a Game 7 where there's a lot of nerves, a lot of anxiety. And those 2 combined for 59 points and just 1 turnover between the 2. So they were excellent. Well done, J-Dub.
The other player that, if you just are a box score watcher, you'll look at him and be like, all right, yeah, he had a pretty decent game. But can we even begin to describe some of the brilliance of Alex Caruso and what his defensive presence meant on Nikola Jokic this afternoon? I mean, just impeccable defense.
It was the one, I think it was right in front of me. I think right when he came into the game, he put the pressure on the Joker and caused a turnover. And right then and there, I think that's where the game kind of flipped in Oklahoma City's favor. You just, in his look, you see a guy who's been there and done that, and that's what they needed. And just a short while ago, he was talking, and it's funny, he said he got 9.5 hours sleep before this game, which is incredible. He watched the PGA Championship for a little bit, and then he came to the arena and went to work. And so a veteran move by Alex Caruso. The moment was not too big for him. That's what I thought it looked like for some of the Thunder players at the start. It's like, this may be too big of a moment for him. But as Shea said, once, some shots starting to go, they've gotten into a flow. They were missing some good looks there, and that's why Denver had that early lead. But Caruso, I said it on the Thunder broadcast, I thought he was the MVP of the game because when he came in, that kind of shifted towards the Thunder.
The everyman approach. What? Just relax and watch a little golf before he comes in to go to work on a Sunday afternoon? Man after my own heart. I thought it was so well done from him because you could see the hesitation in Jokic because he's worried about the smaller body that's there and how the NBA decides to ref in moments like this. He was a little afraid of creating a massive amount of contact against Caruso, with the body weight difference there. So it completely threw them off the game. And I never thought that Denver really was able to recover or even adapt out of what was happening.
Well, Joker seemed like he lived at the free throw line in that first quarter. I'm
yeah.
Like, this is how this game's going to go. And then it changed. But, he finished with 20 points, and 9 of those points came from the free throw line. So well done by Caruso and gang. Joker's so hard to defend because he's so husky and burly, and he has a nice soft touch around the rim. He'll go down as one of the better best big man ever to play in the NBA. But they did a great job on him. When he puts the ball down low, you got to have that hands on him, and they had hands all the way around him. Denver, they were playing with, Jamal Murray was still sick, but Adelman didn't make that as an excuse because he was sick too, also in Game 6, and that didn't bother him. Michael Porter Jr. still has the shoulder, and the injury to Aaron Gordon, he played through it. He praised Aaron Gordon for playing injured, but I think Oklahoma City, as this series went on, just kind of slowly wore down the Nuggets. And Game 6 was the lift Denver needed playing at Ball Arena, and they didn't get that lift today.
Seems like every game there was a game of runs. I mean, you can go back through, Game 1 and Game 2. Some of the big runs that Denver went on. This run for the Thunder at the end of the first half, and then carrying that over into the third quarter. What was it? A 9-0 run to start the third quarter. And next thing you know, that was a game that was a 3-point game that had blown up to 20 before, in like 4 minutes of gameplay, Steve. I mean, just a series of runs, and today's run by the Thunder was the one that ultimately sealed the fate.
I don't know how close. Did it get to within 18 points in the second half? But really, that start of the second half, okay, if Denver's going to do anything, they got to do it right out the gates. And I think, as you mentioned, Thunder scored the first 9 points in that third quarter, and that really set the tone for the rest of the half. And I think that put the players at ease, saying, hey, we got this. We can do this. We're going to get this thing done. Neither team shot the ball that great from three. So, let's see here. Thunder, 12 out of 39. That's not good. Denver, 10 out of 45. Bad as well. But, Caruso and the Thunder defense creating 22 turnovers and 16 steals. That was the difference, along with the defense.
A couple of things that we learned in the postgame show. If I were to tell you pregame, all right, SGA is nervous. And J-Dub is going to get 2 hours of sleep, he said, or less than 2 hours of sleep. I think there are a lot of people that would have been a little bit nervous. But, again, continued growth from this team, and it's something that Mark talked about. Denver made us better. We're better now at the end of this series than we were at the beginning of the series, but it's because of the opponent.
They needed this Game 7 experience. Obviously it helps if you win. Win or lose, they needed to be in this situation because they're going to be in this situation possibly in the next series or next year or the year after that. They need to learn how to win. They need to experience what it's like to be nervous and anxious and get 2 hours of sleep. They grew up today. I don't think the playoff experience excuse can be used anymore. They've passed that with this win today.
What was the building like? It's hard to tell sometimes when you're not there. It did come across on the broadcast for sure how loud it was, but I saw multiple accounts talking about this maybe one of the loudest moments that they've ever been witness to. So I can only assume the energy level was insane.
I was fortunate to be here for the Durant Westbrook era, and it was loud then. But I think today topped that. The fans were on their feet longer, and they were much louder, and they always put a decibel. I think it's a great idea to put the decibel levels up, Let's hear the noise. That's a great idea. And so there's a college atmosphere again. They were singing that song, hey, 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 goodbye. College. You do that in college, not in the NBA. But, I think the level – I don't know, but I would say it's the loudest game ever here. I would say so.
Last thing, any hangover items that maybe we didn't bring up here in this very shortened edition? I know you got a ton of stuff to do before the night is over. Anything that's just kind of lingering out there from this series that you think is important to bring up?
It's just, as I said, it was just whoever's going to win was going to be very fortunate to win. They had to grind it out. It's well done, Thunder. Denver probably needs one or two more bench players and some healthier players. Will this be a different series? Now we got to get ready for Minnesota. I mentioned this to you, a few weeks ago. I thought at the beginning of the year Memphis would be the problem, and then Marcus Smart gets hurt, and they trade him, and Ja gets hurt, and so then I started thinking, okay, Minnesota could be a problem, and they were gifted a spot in the finals when Steph Curry went out. So it's going to be a tough series. They have home court advantage. They're going to be playing in 48 hours. Minnesota will be well rested. It's a different type of challenge. I'm sure those coaches are glad to be scouting someone else for once.
We'll do a Minnesota preview pod before game one, but it's still weird to me to think that what were we just a few years ago from Minnesota taking away the play-in opportunity for the Thunder. Weird to think about, and here we are fast forward, and now we're playing in a Western Conference Finals.
One more thing, it's interesting. I asked Chet this. His first game in the NBA was in Minnesota, but he couldn't play. He was hurt that year, so he's kind of come full circle, as he mentioned in his post-game press conference, that he now comes back and play some meaningful basketball games in his hometown. That's going to be very cool in Game 3 and Game 4. Let's see what Chet does in his hometown.
Steve, very cool for you to join us from courtside. We always appreciate it, and we'll see you before Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Take care, Jeremy. Have a good one.
And for everyone tuning in, thank you as well. Remember, hit that like and subscribe button here on the Channel 9 YouTube page, and we'll see you for a preview pod of the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Oklahoma City Thunder.